Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Engineering Entrepreneur Podcast, episode 129 today. And this is your host, Scott Tarsi. And my main business is CADdesignhelp.com. Please sign up on my email list. Go there. There'll be a little pop-up, or you can also go to the top where it says subscribe. And we'll send you a free gift when you do that. Plus, you'll be kept up to date on the shows. Try to leave me a review on iTunes if you're a fan of the show and you listen a lot. That would help a bunch with the algorithm. And send me an email for any feedback or guest requests. Email is info@CADdesignhelp.com. So our guest this week is David Rose, who's an MIT lecturer, inventor, five-time entrepreneur. He just wrote a book called Enchanted Objects, which is a book about designing for the Internet of Things, which I think it would be cool to talk about because I have a little experience with that. And looks like in the past he worked in AI, some computer vision, and was VP of Vision Technology at Warby Parker. So, David, maybe kind of fill us in on your background, and then we can talk about the book and about some of the businesses that you've started.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for inviting me, Scott. Actually, my first book is Enchanted Objects, all about Internet of Things and kind of what drives people to want connected objects in their life and kind of what problems those things solve. My most recent book which is just out, is called Supersight, and that is about what augmented reality means for our lives and our work and the way we imagine the future. And the central kind of thesis of Supersight is augmented reality could really be used as like an imagination engine to help people kind of see things that they otherwise wouldn't be able to easily kind of conjure up in their minds. So, if you think about the design of cities, it's hard for people to kind of imagine what could go in a blank parking lot, or how an intersection might be redesigned to be more pedestrian friendly, or how a landscape like your front yard might be reimagined in a way that's sustainable and uses less water and captures more carbon. So I think, really augmented reality has a lot of potential for kind of helping people see in a new way.
Okay, so your second book is on augmented reality, and then your first book was on the Internet of Things?
Correct, yes.
Why don't let's hear about like the business that you run first, and then we can talk like more technical details about the books you've done.
Sure. Yeah. So now I'm CEO of a company that is working on helping people boat more safely. So we have a camera system that sits on top of a boat, and it does a lot of the jobs that Tesla does to help people drive, at least in more informed ways. So we look at 360 degrees around the boat. We use computer vision to sense what's nearby. And we create a view for you that you can see on the chart plotter, which is the screen that's sitting next to your steering wheel at the helm of the boat. And on that screen, you can see a view of what the camera sees, but then we overlay with augmented reality safe passage tracks, kind of routes to go, buoys that you may not see if it's foggy or low visibility situations. We also augment it with arrows of which side of the buoy you need to go on. And if we spot hazards like other things in the water, other vessels, we highlight those and kind of paint a bright outline around somebody that's in the water or other things that are in the water that you don't want to hit. So this is a company I started 2 years ago after ruining a lot of props and a lot of nearly running into people when I'm boating around Boston Harbor where I live.
It sounds like a pretty useful application. I'm curious how that works at night, because don't feel like people boat at night. And I mean, it'd be tougher because on the streets you've got street lights and like cars have lights, but when you're on a boat, how does that work with the vision system?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are there are four inputs to the system. The first is cartography. So just knowing from the maps, where are the shallows and where are the buoys, and where we get a lot of data from maps that we can overlay onto the world in front of you in a really vivid way so you can see what's happening. We also get data from the computer vision system. We use a near infrared low light camera system, so it can see much better than you can see for low light situations. We also do sensor fusion with any other data that we get from radar or from radar on other boats. So there's a cloud connection as well. And then the fourth source of data is called AIS, which is an anti-collision system, which is a boat-to-boat, like B2B system that uses UHF frequencies in order for large boats like ferries or fishing trawlers or container ships by law have to send out, this is who I am, this is where I'm headed, and this is my heading and position. So we take that data as well, and we kind of sensor fuse all of those sources and then lay it over the world around a boater to give them really situational awareness on the water that works at night too.
So yeah, that makes sense. I don't know a lot about boating, but it makes sense that you would with really large ships be sending out signals, because you can't stop it fast. Like that's got to be my theory.
That's right.
Reason. Because the giant boat, it's like worse than a train, right? Like it's going to take so long to slow down and stop a boat headed somewhere that like it's almost like you have to be like hours, not hours in advance, but like miles in advance. It has to be like, hey, we're like headed this way. Like, and if you get in the path, you better move because we can't stop it in time. Essentially.
Yeah. I think that is the biggest use case for AIS data between big boats. Although our target market for the lookout camera, that's what it's called, is people that have recreational boats that are anywhere from like 30 to 65 feet, and they just want more confidence and more safety on the water for those boats.
And does the program control the boat itself, or does it only just send signals to the driver saying like, hey, we recommend that you turn left here, but at the end of the day, like if you don't do it, you're going to crash, and the boat can't actually take over?
Yeah, that's a good question, Scott. Right now we are in the driver assistance category, so we are not in the autonomy business yet for boating. So we help a human operator understand the world around them in a much more visceral way than just looking down at a map. But we don't, the work that we're doing is the missing piece before you get to autonomy for boats. But right now, we're not talking to the autopilots, and we're not making turn decisions for you. We're doing route planning execution for them. We're just helping them understand what's around them and make better decisions. Although I do think there's a kind of an interesting use case even for boats that do have autopilot. There's often this need when the autopilot is on and you're not really tuned into a situation, like say you're like, think about a car situation. The car is driving for you. So let's say that's level 4 autonomy. And then it wakes you up and says, hey, Scott, we're about to get off the highway. It's a really interesting kind of perceptual psychology question of like, what's the best way to give you an understanding of everything that's around you if you haven't been tracking all along, right? So I think we have a project at MIT to kind of study this kind of rapid situational awareness problem, which is if you come out of autonomy, how can you quickly give somebody a sense of everything around them so that they can then take over? It's like a autonomy to control handoff problem.
Yeah, I get that. And how does the recommendation get made? Because you have all this different data coming in. How does the program decide what to recommend or say? Because
or what to show you,
right? Like there could be conflicting information, or you got a lot of stuff coming in, so you have to like break that down and organize it some way.
Yeah. So I mean, that's really kind of the design problem that we're challenged with, which is we have a whole series of, this is all built in Unity, so a series of prefabs that are 3D objects that represent a path on the water, that are these hoops that look like you're driving underneath, like in the Tour de France, you have those like summit hoops that are blow up, or drone racing. You've got these kind of hoops that go over. So we have hoops that are over the water for the entrance to a channel or the exit of a channel, or if you're going under a bridge, kind of which span to use under the bridge. And then we show other boats, even if it's a fog situation or night situation, we will kind of reconstitute a boat that is there, that if it were a clear day, you would see it with your naked eye, but because it's foggy out, we kind of paint a ghost boat in the position of the other boat, kind of with the right heading and the right orientation. So in a way, we're kind of reconstructing the world that you'd like to see, and trying to make things larger if they need to be more apparent to you, or painting kind of like a danger cloud around them. If it's something that is so small and moving fast that you're not likely to see it. But that's really, I think that's kind of where the sensor fusion technology meets the world of information visualization and good design, to try to figure out like what's the ideal picture to show you for any given situation to help you make better decisions.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. I heard you say Unity, and I think that's like a 3D modeling software, isn't it?
Yeah, there are two game engines that are
that's what it was.
For all the used for most of the 3D kind of first-person shooters or battle royale kind of games, and Unity is one, and Unreal Engine is the other. But Unity is great because it handles all the lighting effects and physics effects, and we can put like particle effects on the water to show you where the currents are going, so that when you're docking, you get a kind of a sense of the unseen forces that will have an effect on your boat. And so we can kind of play with what you see of the world. Now we're doing this right now, as I mentioned, just at the helm of the boat, but the real future of AR is to be able to do it in glasses. So Unity also supports. Yeah.
Taking us back to the Google Glass days, they were like the first ones to do this, basically.
Yeah, well, Google Glass was different though. Yeah, well, Google Glass didn't glue things to the world. It just glued things to your head. So it was basically like Google Glass was a floating screen that moved as you moved your head around. And what we're doing is very different. We're using spatialized location and mapping technology to be able to perceptually understand what's around you, and then fix things to the world around you, not to so that if you look around, things are fixed to the world, not fixed to your head.
Yeah, I used AR once. I was looking at like getting some furniture or something, and I used the Home Depot app. It was really cool. Like it showed like the desk in the corner, and the scale was kind of off. It was kind of like cumbersome, but like the idea behind it was good, where it was like, okay, this is what this desk would look like in the corner of this room.
Right,
so that's essentially what you're doing with the boat. You're like portraying all these things that are out there in real time, which I guess a lot of this is going to come down to like your internet speed on your phone or whatever device you're using, because if there's like lag, it's like going to be out of sync with what you're doing. That could lead to big problems if you're like kind of relying on this.
Yeah, well, we're caching everything locally, so that all the cartography and everything else that's really relevant to you doesn't rely on having a fast internet connection. We certainly do use a cloud connection if somebody reports like, hey, I see a whale or a manatee or a shark, or there's man overboard. We report those things to a cloud like Waze does for traffic,
right.
or a cop, so that multiple boats can share information in the cloud. But in my book Superside, I really go through kind of each chapter covers a different use of what what AR will be useful for. And I do think navigation is kind of a top use case. I don't know. Have you seen what Google is doing with what they call live view in maps?
I don't know if I looked at that feature. I've heard of it. Why don't you just fill us in real quick?
Sure,
I'll go
sure.
check that out later.
Yeah, so normally with Google Maps, you get the blue dot, which is you, and then it shows you kind of where you need to go, whether you're walking or driving or biking. But there's a new button at the bottom that says Live View, and that's something, if you tap that, it opens up the phone's camera, and then it shows you overlaid with the camera view. You still get the kind of the map on a little disc that's on the bottom of the screen, but then it superimposes onto the street these big like arrows of you need to go this way on this street, and it's really helpful for things in a situation where you like pop out of the subway in New York and like which way is north again.
Okay. Yeah,
really,
I'm old school. I would just pull out my phone. Well, old school in the sense I pull out my phone to use the compass, but
right.
I can see that being better. Obviously, like it shows you arrows on the ground. It's just like literally follow the arrows. Couldn't make it easier to find your way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think beyond navigation, there's so many things that AR I think can help with. And when I was at Warby Parker, we used the front-facing camera that is the IR camera that unlocks the phone with your face in order to use those 40,000 points, which are projected onto the face and that are read by an infrared camera on the front-facing camera of the phone, to actually create a map, a 3D terrain map of the face, and then superimpose glasses in a really, really accurate way so that they would sit, right on right on the nose bridge, and the temples would be right over the top of the ears. And it's so good that people are really can trust it to see kind of what they like on their face and are willing to make purchase decisions.
Okay. I was wondering I wondered if it was to fit the glasses or if it was to. Okay, so at first I thought you were getting at like it's to fit it to your face, but what you're saying is it's to see how it would look on you, so you don't have to like go there in person. You can just do this from home. You don't have to go to a store or anything.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it can achieve both. So we can get pupillary distance, nose bridge height, face width, and like how high are your cheeks. So wouldn't you need
3 cameras for depth though? It's like you can't see depth with only one camera.
Actually, with the camera that's in the iPhone, since the iPhone 10, you do get a depth map. You get a point cloud in 3D of the face
from just the front camera.
Exactly, because what it's doing is it's projecting an irregular set of dots against the face, and then you get a depth map from those 40,000 points because it's also using an IR camera in order to look at that irregular pattern. So things are displaced in a way that's predictable.
Okay. Yeah, I had assumed that would not be possible because the point of 3 cameras is like you need something kind of basically at 2 different angles, and then it's measuring the difference in distance to calculate the depth of something. So I didn't know you could do that from just one camera.
Right. You can. I mean, actually, the old Microsoft Kinect was using the same kind of technique where it was a IR projector and an IR camera that was looking at that.
Oh, so you need an IR projector and an IR camera. You can't just have one.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And that's what the iPhone has
on the front facing camera.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
But there are new neural networks that are able to create. If you have 2 cameras, it's called photogrammetry, where you're able to create a depth map based on kind of what's called the baseline between the 2 cameras. And we do use that on the boat. Actually, the lookout camera has a stereo camera pair in the front, and we do use that stereo separation in order to estimate how far away things are from you. So that helps us predict kind of how many seconds until impact, and then we can alert you with visual or auditory or even like a haptic feedback either on the steering wheel or on a watch if you don't want the audio, or if the boat is too loud.
Okay, that's cool. Let's see what's next. So you want to talk more details about the books, or we already covered that with some of these examples?
Well, I guess maybe just to say one last thing about SuperSight, I do think that I teach a lot of workshops for companies like Samsung and Procter and Gamble and IKEA that kind of help give product teams a sense of what they could build with AR. And I think it's for the listeners of this podcast, you really I think it's good to kind of tool up on what will be the next kind of big wave of capabilities for computing and for human computer interaction. And so I recommend people try out Apple's Reality Composer, which allows you to kind of upload a 3D file and place it in the world. Adobe also has a program called Aero, AERO, that also allows you to just kind of grab a 3D model, place it into the world, assign some behaviors to it. It could be like, how close are you to the thing before it starts animating or appears or disappears? I think it's really smart to kind of try Unity, Unreal Engine, Aero, Reality Composer, and just kind of try to get some intuitions about what things work well and what things look wonky. And because I do think these kind of features will be an extension of a lot of e-commerce apps, like what Warby Parker did for the glasses. Like that's just part of the regular e-commerce app, where you're looking at frames and you say, oh yeah, try that one on my face, or try that chair in my living room. And these perception capabilities of the phones to be able to understand the world around you and the dimensions of it and what's there and what's not there will really be a way of kind of seeing things in a new way that's powerful and fun.
Yeah, I can see that being useful for like e-commerce. I was just like with the Home Depot example where I was looking at like furniture in the house, like having that's really useful. It's going to probably lead to higher sales because people are like, oh, okay, I know this is going to work. It looks good or doesn't look good or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the real problem, I worked with Wayfair on a project, and the real problem that AR was able to solve for Wayfair was not only persuading somebody that it would look great in their house, but also making sure that it fits through the door.
Right, for sure.
And then it also reduces returns, which is really the killer for any kind of like design business where they're shipping you something, especially as large as like a couch. If you return it, oh my gosh, like they lose the shipping money, they have to repackage it, they have to clean it. And if 25% of couches get returned because people don't understand whether it's going to fit or look good in their space, that's an important problem to solve.
Yeah, exactly. There's got to be some percentage return rate that makes you unprofitable at that point.
Yes, right.
All right, cool. Well, I guess we'll get towards wrapping up. Second to last question is, what is your number one tip for the audience? If they want to get into working in this kind of space.
Yeah, I mean, something that I try to do and would encourage others to do is just to be kind of try to be a lead user. There's a professor at MIT who kind of has this theory about lead users, which is there's some set of your audience that will try new things and have strong opinions about those new things. And I think for developers, we're kind of all in the game of kind of understanding what are the most powerful new tools that we can use, that we can bring to our clients. And I think AR really is kind of the next wave, combined with generative adversarial nets, of course, which is the what the world is excited about right now. But if you can manifest these, products and services kind of that are spatially anchored in the world, people get a much better sense of dimension. It can help people in a number of ways. And, if you can kind of think of it as a new material, where, you need to understand, like, what are the capabilities of this material? What can it do? What is it not yet able to do? And then have opinions about that because you've been prototyping things. I think that's really the, develop some intuitions about this new material, help your company's prototype, run a workshop to conceive of and kind of sketch some ideas with AR, and I think you'll really increase your value.
Awesome. And lastly, if people want to get in touch, talk to you, learn more, what's the best way?
Yeah, I have a website, supersite.world, that includes, you can download the first chapter of the book for free. You can see examples of things that I've built or projects that I'm working on. There's some design principles for AR at supersite.world. And if people want to reach out to me, I'm david.rose at supersite.world.
All right, great. All right, David. Yeah, it was a good show. Enjoy talking to you, and we'll catch everyone next time on the podcast.
You too. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Stop the recording.